Today is a reopening of phase 2 in New York City, meaning that people can get their hair cut in salons, they can have outdoor dining and drink service, a lot of other things that are out there. And I've been watching over the last several weeks where sometimes people in the Northeast seem like they've been thumping their chest a bit about how much better we're doing here than in some other places where we've been taking strict measures. We have seen a decline in the number of cases. Other places have opened up and have seen more cases coming on. Are we just waiting for this to happen to us, too? Because as we reopen up, it's inevitable that you are going to see an increase in cases, and maybe it puts us right back where we were?
Well, we'll see an increase in cases, but we're reopening against a much different backdrop. First of all, cases are way down in the Northeast. New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, cases are way down. I think the population here is more aware of the risks. I think you're more likely to see compliance with masking, people being mindful of their social interactions. And so we also have a lot of infection here. New York, probably 30% of the population has been infected. New Jersey and Connecticut, probably around 10% if you did seroprevalence studies. Maybe higher than that. And so there's been more infection here, so the transmission rate is going to be a little bit less because of that, because now you have more people who have some level of immunity. So I wouldn't expect to see the big increases that they're seeing in the Southeast and the South in here when we open. Remember, Florida, Texas, Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, Arkansas, Arizona, all opened against the backdrop of a lot of spread. Their cases never really went down, and then they opened up. And so they were destined to have more infection as they opened.
Do you think that's why, when you look at what we're hearing from some of the schools already, some of the universities that have opened up for their football practices, it was Clemson, LSU, Kansas State, the University of Texas, the University of Houston, Alabama, South Florida, and West Virginia that have all seen cases, spikes in the number of kids on those teams who have seen coronavirus, who have tested positive? Or do you think it's just something that you're going to inevitably see when you have close contact sports for universities across the country and then potentially high schools, too?
Yeah, the sports are a challenge for the colleges and the high schools. I think the professional leagues can do a lot to create a bubble around the players and test them. And put in place measures to control what they do off the field as well. I think it's going to be much more difficult for colleges to do that. First of all, to implement the testing. They don't have the resources to do it. But also to control behavior off the field. And so it's going to be much more difficult for them to restart college football than to restart professional football, in my view. I think they can restart professional football, but they have endless resources to try to work this problem, get testing in place, and try to put measures in place to reduce the risk off the field as well. But I don't think it's a coincidence that you're seeing the outbreaks in states where you already have outbreaks. There's a background rate of spread there that's probably quite significant. I think this week's going to really be a pivotal week for us to get a picture of where things are heading in states like Florida and Arizona and Texas, whether or not they're tipping over into exponential growth or not. The problem is with exponential growth, everything looks sort of okay until all of a sudden it doesn't. And the cases are building very quickly in those states. Deaths are down. And I think they'll continue to stay down, in part because we're treating this disease better, and in part because the outbreaks for now are among a younger cohort, as older people do a much better job of protecting themselves.
But what will be the sign? What will be the numbers or the statistics we look at to decide whether this has gone exponential?
Well, I think if you're seeing cases continue to build by 500 to 1,000 in states like Florida, Texas, Arizona, you're seeing cases build by 500 a day. By the end of the week, we're at maybe 6,000 cases in these states, maybe a little bit more in Florida, Texas, California. That's going to be a curve that's starting to look like exponential growth, a doubling time coming down to something, about a week or less. Right now, the doubling time is about 10 days in some of these places. So it's been coming down. They're having major outbreaks underway. There's no question about it. And they might be past the point that they can control this just with simple interventions like trying to get more people to wear masks and people be mindful of their social interactions. They might have to start closing some establishments where people are congregating indoors and they know the virus is spreading. The problem is they don't know what those establishments are. They're guessing it's the bars because a lot of young people are getting the illness. But I don't think they've really traced it back to those locations effectively because they don't have the tracking and tracing in place that other states, including New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut have as they reopen.